All right, my name is Kurt Fenzel, and I'm one of the ADAS and EV instructors here with iCar. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Steve Dawson. We're going to be talking a little bit about ADAS and some of the innovative things that Hunter's doing with ADAS. So if you just want to go ahead and kind of give us a little intro on what we're going to be learning today, and we'll have a great discussion.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kurt. So I'm Steve Dawson with Hunter Engineering. Been with Hunter for about 7 years, and I specialize on the collision side of the industry and the and ADAS calibrations. So I do a ton of calibrations utilizing all of our equipment, both the older style manual stuff and the newer automatic systems.
Great. Awesome.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that automatic system and how we can eliminate some of the challenges, make it a little bit easier technician-wise and a little bit more efficient.
Awesome.
So one of the things that I always like to start out with is ADAS is one of those things that some people have a really clear image of, and some don't. Some think it's a mythical thing in the car, and other ones actually understand what's going on. And the reality is, this system is in place to really make sure that our drivers are safe on the road and reduce accidents, reduce really that chance for people to get hurt. If it's killed or even just injured significantly, we're trying to mitigate any of that by having these systems that are not reading their cell phones, that are not paying attention. They're actually reading everything of what they need, watching what's going on around them. So there's we see that a lot with shops that say, I'm not really sure what we have for calibrations, and the reality is there's a ton of them on the road today.
Yeah, it seems like you can't even buy a car nowadays that doesn't have some form of ADAS on it, right? Every car has something on it nowadays, especially with EVs and all these newer vehicles that are coming out. They all have some type of assistance with driving.
Yep. Yeah, and that's that's a perfect example, because in 2022, 20 of the manufacturers voluntarily said, hey, we're going to put automatic braking on all of our cars. So it's interacting up to about 42 miles an hour. They put on, for any of that automatic braking, it requires something to see the road in front and something to measure how far that is away from them. So, as we have here, there's cameras on the front of the car, some cases cameras and radars, some cases just cameras, but it all takes that equipment to be able to see what's in front and make sure that the car reacts appropriately. And then in many of our cars today, they've also gone crazy with it and added them all over the place, with side view cameras to give us that really cool picture, like we got a drone flying over our car to show us everything around it, as well as the, helping us back up. And I was just doing a presentation, we were talking about that active backup, and it was amazing, the statistics that it's 75% of the collisions are avoided by having rear radar or a rear braking system that stops you from backing into stuff.
Yeah, it seems like no matter where you park, there's always a bigger car that parks next to you. So when you're trying to back out of a spot, you can't see around you. And, so having that stuff has been great. And honestly, as a driver that has a rear view camera and rear cross traffic alert, I don't know that I could go back and not have it anymore. It's made my life so much easier.
Yeah, and that's it. It's those convenience factors. And in a lot of the cases, these systems are all interacting with each other. So, not only is it dealing with your ADAS, but it's also maybe doing your cruise control or some of your other systems that are maybe not safety systems, but are those convenience factors that really make driving much more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, taking a road trip now is a lot easier when the car helps keep you centered in the lane and, will monitor traffic slowing down and, helping you see things in your blind spot. And when the weather's not so nice, it helps with that too.
Yep, when you got, 3 kids in the back seat screaming and yelling and you got to deal with that, the car is still keeping track of what's out there in front. And that's one of the myths that we have a lot with the ADAS systems, is people think that these are self-driving systems, and the reality is they're not self-driving. They're really just driver assistance.
Yeah.
It still requires a driver to be there, and they're responsible for making sure that that vehicle operates properly.
Right.
I don't know if any of you want to be on a plane flying out here and have both the co-pilot and pilot leave the cockpit and go hang out in the rest of the plane. You want somebody up there in case something goes wrong to interact, and that's where the driver still fits into this process.
Yeah, good point.
So the opportunities that we see a lot are really, when do we do calibrations? And I love the last group talking about blueprinting, and it's so critical to really understand the OEM procedures for the repairs that are doing. If it's a collision repair, we're doing it after a collision, or even many of our maintenance operations are requiring that we have calibrations done afterwards. Or even, like we see here around the show, raising and lowering cars all require those calibrations to be done. And, are we getting that information and making sure that we're really doing the research to find out exactly what needs to be done? And then do we have all of the right pieces to do that between equipment and technician skill to be able to handle that operation?
Yeah, and honestly, and as an instructor, we're one of those people that are trying to make the technicians aware of that and help them move forward with that. And even on the consumer side, just educating them so they know what calibrations they may need, and if there is an accident or some glass that needs to be replaced.
Yep. And there's those changes are so small, make a huge impact on the vehicle. So, if we're driving down the road, our cameras are looking straight down the road at the car in front of us, everything's working just fine. But as we go through, just half a degree of our thrust line of our car being off, so our alignment just being off a little bit, changes the position that the body of the car has as it's heading down the road. And that at 100 yards takes it about 3 feet in the next lane.
Right.
If most of our cameras are looking 200 plus yards in front of us, so that 3 feet really isn't just 6 feet; it's a little bit more than 6 feet because of that distance down the road. So in the picture here, we got the camper that's right here in front of us, and maybe instead of it reacting to that, our camera is now looking at the car coming up the other lane, and all of a sudden the car sees that coming up at him and goes, "Oh my God, I got to stop or I got to slow down," and starts applying the brakes. The challenge with that is how many times do we have the car interacting with us like that? It's something very new to many of our drivers.
Right.
Oh, it's an experience that's unlike any other. And these systems are back. These are some repair procedures that are in with Honda that are showing back from 2016 that these procedures need to be completed when a vehicle's in for service, when something's being removed or replaced. And so many times I hear that I don't need to worry about recalibrating this car because I just took the sensor off and then put it back into place. I didn't do anything else to it. It still requires it.
I just had an experience with my parents where their car had to get repaired. They had to remove the front grille and put a new grille on, and they were even told that they didn't need to have a calibration done. And thankfully I was able to inform them, like, that's not true. Like, that specific manufacturer says you do need to have that calibration done because the radar was disconnected from the grill.
Right.
And they, and again, a part of this is we just need to continue to educate the industry and the consumer so everyone is aware.
Yeah, and that consumer education is a huge part of this because so many people go to the dealership and the salesman told them, you got this great lane departure system. It's it'll protect you as you're driving down the road, eating your French fries, all of the cool commercials that they've had with it. What they don't tell you is that your maintenance costs now are what was maybe $100 or $150 is now a $400 repair because of it. So it's really key to make sure that we have all the right information and that we communicate with our customer. The other challenge with it is what do we need for space? And we have things like the Ford Fusion, so again, back to 2016, that require a dynamic calibration. So those are those calibrations where we're driving the car down the road, making sure that it's going through that cycle, seeing lines on the road, signs that it's straight and flat, and you're at a certain speed. And I know I'm from the mid-Atlantic area, pretty densely populated just outside of DC. Sometimes it's hard to find the right road conditions to be able to get that car to calibrate where I got a straight road where there's nobody that's going to impede my travel and I'm going to be able to do that 25 to 45. Or in some cases, I was just doing one the other day where it had to be driven at 5 miles an hour for up to 10 minutes. Well, try and find somewhere where you're not going to piss somebody off in the mid-Atlantic driving 5 miles an hour. It's pretty hard to find that kind of space. So.
Yeah, we run into similar issues when we have to do dynamic calibrations where we're at. We're in the suburbs of Chicago, and some of those specific requirements, we got to drive 20 minutes just to get away from people and away from traffic, so we can meet some of those different needs that they want.
Yep, yeah, it's definitely critical. And when you look at Ford's process, it takes us to make sure that we're driving at 40 miles an hour consistently. Yep. Sometimes that can be a challenge in an urban environment.
Yeah. With nice clean lines on the road too, which is a challenge by us with the snow.
Well, and that's the other side of that is that we're so many times we're having to tell a customer, hey, it's raining today and I can't do your calibration. And, or it's snowed out and I can't do your calibration. So The other thing that we hear a lot from shops is that, hey, we're not seeing them into our shop. And the reality is most of these shops are seeing them on a daily basis. They just may not know that it's something that's either required for maintenance or it's required for the repair that they're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just that intake process of the vehicle when that vehicle comes in, just being able to identify, hey, what systems does this vehicle have? Are you looking up the build sheet? Are you going through the vehicle and identifying what specific ADAS features these vehicles may have? That's a huge component of what we talk about when we're training and at our facility is taking the time to go through the vehicle and really understand what this vehicle has and what it may need to have calibrated in terms of the damage that was done.
That's that critical point of making sure that we do a pre-scan where we see all of the systems that are in the vehicle and then refer to our repair plan of what we're fixing and then is there a calibration required for it. I like to say ADAS calibration is a team sport. It takes everybody in the building to be aware of it, understand it, and be able to do the research or the repair because there's not too many customers that say, hey, here's my car, call me when it's done, and don't kind of have an open-ended time frame. They typically always want to know how much it's going to cost and when will it be done. And if we have those kind of criteria where we're doing a dynamic calibration and we're doing a repair, plus we got to drive it 20 minutes out to find the right conditions, run through that process, then 20 minutes back, we've got to make sure that we're accounting for that time. The other side of that is, if it's a static, do we actually have the space in the shop to be able to do it?
Right.
Are our conditions right to do it? And then do we have the targets and the tools that we need to be able to do that repair?
Yeah, especially with some of those 360 cameras where you got to put the big mats down and you need 40 feet and additional feet on either side as you're calibrating. Like that's not a typical amount of space that a shop has to be able to do some of that.
Yep. Yeah, and sometimes maybe they do have it, but it's an end-of-the-day procedure.
Yeah.
So, it's got to wait until everybody goes home so that we can open up the bay to be able to do those things. So, like I say, it's a team sport. Everybody needs to be involved with it.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It really is a team sport where everybody needs to come together and understand the process involved with that. Because one of the things I always say is it's not business as usual, right? This is different now.
Right.
We need to pay attention to when bumpers need to go on and when they shouldn't go on and
even it's right down to the detailer, because is this a vehicle that's going to be getting a ceramic coating on it, and that ceramic coating cannot go over the radar units, or are the windshield clean so that we can do the calibration and that sort of thing. So it's really an everybody involved in the operations.
Yep.
So many of the OEMs are requiring after collision. Really, every OEM is doing that. But then there's so many that are just requiring it after that maintenance operation of simply aligning the vehicle. So it's really about using all of the tools we have available to us to find what calibrations can be done. Now, our car has a great website to kind of show some of those calibrations, and coupled with a pre-scan where you're actually pulling in all the modules in the car, make it even that much more solid of information,
right,
because you know what's in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And then, as Hunter, we have some resources that we like to really push along to show some of those services. So we have an online system as well as a hard copy system to be able to help show what are the calibrations that could be on that vehicle, coupled with a pre-scan and understanding what modules are in that vehicle. It's kind of critical information.
Yeah, these are great resources.
Yeah. So, and then the next step of it is documentation, and I'm pretty partial to the way that we do our documentation, but really having that documentation that shows that we place that target in the right place, that it is exactly where the OEM says that it should be. We want to make sure, I hear so many times people say that kind of the biggest misnomer I would say about ADAS calibrations is, oh, I don't want the liability, so I'm going to sublet it to somebody else to do. And quite frankly, you're not subletting that liability. You're only subletting the repair. You're still going to be involved in, if there's a lawsuit or something, you're still going to be involved in it because you are delivering the car out. And I like to say, if we're delivering cars out that don't have the calibrations done, it's kind of like sending a brake job out with 3 brake pads put on it. It's just not a complete repair, and we're really liable to make sure that we're repairing the car completely for the customer, and then we're documenting everything of what we're doing, showing precisely where those targets are. and there's a multitude of ways to do that with pictures and things. It's just really nice when you have equipment that does that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge component that we talk about in our classes of the documentation piece, and quite frankly, we're seeing a pretty wide spectrum of what people are and are not doing, and at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that you can prove that what you did was right if in the event that it needed to be done.
Yep. Well, and then the next step of that is we prove that we got it all done, and can we make money at this? And this is really a very lucrative part of the business, and it's another one of those blind spots that I hear all the time with, how am I going to make this profitable? How is this something that I can go and deliver out to my customer and know that I'm charging an appropriate amount,
right,
but I'm not overcharging an amount? But this is a very complex repair. It is not your standard entry-level technician kind of repair in some cases. If it's just a calibration and it goes smoothly, it's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
It's when it goes wrong that it takes that technician that really understands some diagnostic work, how to be able to figure out why that went wrong. And sometimes that can be pretty simple. I had a customer in a few days ago in our training center, and he wanted me to help him with a calibration on a front camera, and all I had to do was look at the little VIN window in the base of the windshield, and the VIN was in that little window. Instead of being perfectly centered in it, it was a little cockeyed and a little bit to the top side of it, and when you started measuring around a windshield, you saw that the windshield was not installed correctly. So when you look at a camera mount, if it's a little bit twisted and a little bit lower, it's really not given the right image, and it's going to fail calibration. And that little bit back at the car, at 200 yards out, is a huge difference in what it's seeing and what it's not seeing. So it's really a critical piece.
We see lots of connectors not plugged in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
It does. Yep.
So, and we like to see that there's, you do one calibration, ADAS calibration a day, one of those resets 5 days a week. It can be $140,000 or plus in revenue for the average shop. And then again, that helping that customer understand what's being done and how that whole system works, and making sure that they're informed with what's going on and all the resources that are available for a shop to be able to kind of communicate that to a customer.
Okay.
So, and then there's our best way of doing that is the new Hunter Ultimate ADAS tool, which we love to get into. That tool uses pinpoint laser accuracy to measure where the car is in space, maps the floor of where the car is, and places the target, helps the technician places the targets, and in every case as it's placing that target, it's measuring and verifying, did the technician put it in the right place? So we're seeing things that were 30, 35, 40-minute procedures before with maybe painter's tape on the floor are now a mat system that are taking 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes to get completed. So it's a very efficient way of doing things, and as it's doing that, it's also documenting and measuring exactly on several different access lines where that target was placed, so that there's no question we've put the target in the right place, and we've done it with some skill and accuracy. So if the car doesn't pass calibration, we know that it's not the target and the target placement. There's something we need to look at in the car. Why did it not calibrate it? Does it need to be reprogrammed? Was the connector not plugged in? Is there something blocking it?
Yeah, and you have this on display here too right now, don't you?
We do. So the Ultimate ADAS is in several different places between Apex and SEMA. We have it in the Future Tech Garage, and then our main booth right downstairs, where about every 20 minutes they're doing full demonstrations of how that system works. And the other nice side of that system is it's good for any kind of shop that you have. And on top of that, it is the OEM approved tool for Honda and Acura and Nissan and Infiniti. So if you really want to make sure that you're using the OEM process, that is there. And then we have all of the other manufacturers, or several others you see on the chart there, where we have the targets there for them. That OEM approvals, I'm sure will be following down the line, because it's so accurate within that 1 millimeter of accuracy, and it documents everything back, and it even shares it with the cloud, so OEMs can make sure that it matches up with their OEM tool, and we can use not only our scan tool or an OEM tool with it. So it's really kind of a run what you brung kind of calibration fixture.
Yeah, it truly is I've never seen anything like it, and I've gotten my hands on it a little bit. It really is, it's going to completely change the way that we're doing these calibrations.
Yep, that is very true. So, as we talk about down in the South Hall at 4217, the Apex Studio, or the Joe's Garage and the Future Tech Garage, feel free to stop by and see us at the booth. Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, thank you so much for your time and coming out here today and educating us on this Ultimate ADAS and all the great stuff that Hunter's doing with ADAS. And I hope you have a really great show.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. All right.